Welcome back to the Spencer Deco Tarot. I am your host, James Spencer, the creator of the Spencer Deco Tarot deck. I used AI art software to create my deck. It is inspired by the form and style of the Aleister Crowley Thoth deck, and I was inspired by 1920s, 1930s Art Deco, Old Hollywood, Old Broadway, and again, the period of the 20s and 30s. Let's move ahead now to my favorite suit, which is swords. Swords represent the mind, intellect, and using your mind powerfully to attain what you want. But it means alignment with spiritual principles of knowing that you are God also, and knowing that all the answers you would ever need, you already have because you're God. You are intuitive psychic. You are a master of the mind. The sword cards also represent air signs. I'm an air sign. I'm Aquarius, but it also represents Gemini and Libra and those energies as well. Okay, I'm excited to get us started. So let's take a look now at the sword cards of the Spencer Deco Tarot. Our first card is the Ace of Swords. And here we see an icy sword coming out of the ice with sort of an Art Deco pattern. And what the Ace of Swords means is you are in a space of mental clarity. You have the gifts of mental clarity, originality, inventiveness, and also understanding that your thoughts are creating your reality. And when you align with God in optimism, positive thoughts, and surrender, you can bring anything you want to fruition. Anything you're working towards, all your desires can come true. And this is a powerful card. It means like a new way of thinking, breaking through the mental crap and getting aligned with what is going to bring you what you want. It is spiritual clarity, mental clarity, inventiveness, and creativity. Now to the Two of Swords, truce. And here we see businessmen coming together to make a deal. And maybe they have differences of opinions, but they're working together for a greater good. They are willing to compromise to create the success they want. And in life, we are always going to encounter people that think differently than ours. And what we want to do is come to a place of deep listening to the other person, using compassion, not making the other person wrong. It's about coming to resolution and new thoughts for resolving conflict, coming together in a truce. Wouldn't this be beautiful if we can get our fucking government to get out of these power games of blame and, corruption and lies, to come together to create a greater America? To me, this year's 2024 election is the most pathetic thing I have ever seen in my life. And it's sad that we are in the final era of power games on the planet. The consciousness of the planet has been raised, and these fucking power games is not going to go on much longer. So be patient. Shine your light if you're worried about the election. I know many Americans right now are in fear. You don't need to be. Everything is coming up to be healed. These things of corruption in our government, falsities, manipulation are coming up to be healed. And if you shine your light, we are going to get a great outcome, no matter how toxic and terrible things seem. Look past the appearances. The same goes for COVID. I remember people thinking, oh my God, COVID, we're all gonna die, worst thing on the planet. What COVID was really about, people, listen up, this is important. COVID was forcing people for 2 years to go inward. And when you are stuck at home and you can't work and you can't do anything, you have to deal with your mental and emotional shit. And some people used that time to expand their spiritual consciousness, look at what wasn't working in their life, and make changes. I know so many people that lost their jobs or lost their businesses during COVID only to say, I didn't want to do that in the first place, to create wonderful opportunities for maybe working at home, making more abundance and doing their passion. I saw a lot of friends leave toxic relationships during these years and to align themselves with powerful people, or to use that time inward to heal things in their life. Many people chose to heal ancestral karma and family problems. Many people use that time to get into health and to exercise instead of sitting and being a couch potato and feeling sorry for themselves. Some people chose to treat their bodies like a temple and not go into fear. During COVID, it was actually some of the best years of my life. While people were in panic, I said, oh, I get a wonderful stay-at-home vacation. I tend to be an introvert to begin with, but I used that time during the 2 years of COVID to expand my business. I had the best financial year of my life, believe it or not. And I used that time to remodel my home, to make my home environment the temple of God, a place I wanted to be in, my sanctuary. And I did it little by little over those 2 years. I got rid of all the toxic people in my life. I said, no more Machio. Anybody that's a low energy feeder, psychic vampire, they're out of my life. What's fascinating too is while people were running and taking tons of pharmaceutical and running to get vaccinations and running to get boosters, which by the way is coming out now that many people are having problems from those vaccinations. I have 3 people I knew that actually passed away after getting the boosters. I know people getting blood clot problems and heart murmur problems after all that. And during all that, I go, my body is the temple of God. I'm not polluting it. And I found it fascinating when people were running around in stores during COVID and fighting over ice cream and frozen dinners. And I would go to the section for organic produce with ginger root and antiviral foods. And I just went and got my fresh vegetables and organic vegetables and ate fabulous and never got sick. I didn't even get a cold through the 2 years of the COVID. I didn't have to take any Western medicine because I knew my body was the temple of God. I didn't buy into the media frenzy and the fear frenzy. But I had some people in my neighborhood that went fucking crazy. With paranoia, people running around in mass that we're all gonna die and energy feeding, and it's a choice. And they don't have that spiritual awareness. When you have the spiritual awareness, you can have compassion for those people. So I sent out love to all those people, but I didn't have to engage with all those muggles. You see what I'm saying? You have a choice. And the truce is about being able to create positive resolution and using your mind to get your way, but without having to use fear or power games to get what you want. And these men here on this card are doing a multi-million-dollar bill or project that's going to benefit both companies, and they are in their their business penthouses. They're having a nice lunch. They're becoming friends, even though they have differences of opinion. They're working together for a greater good, for a greater city, for a greater metropolis. And you can choose to do that too. Don't be in these stupid fucking power games that people are playing on the planet right now. You have a choice. You raise your consciousness to be above that. You shine your light of love and watch your world transform around you. You are that powerful. Oh dear, now to the Three of Swords, sorrow. And what we see here is a lady and a man, and they're both using each other for their own gratification. And sorrow comes from not understanding the principle that you are God also. They will prostitute themselves, they will debauch themselves to get what they want, and they're not truly happy. And so true sorrow comes from not understanding your divinity. So here, what we have is the need to release old patterns. This is very interesting, and this is something that changed my life. There is what is called sexual energy feeding or sexual energy virus on the planet. And what that means is it's not always just sex, but it's about people manipulating and using others for their own gain. There are people that use sex to get what they want. There are people that use money, that use power. These kind of games keep you locked in sorrow. Okay. Also, these people surround themselves with low energy beings. This guy's a gigolo rapist. This woman is a, drug pushing whore, shooting up heroin and drinking alcohol. This is not even her house. She has some sugar daddy that she's living with and manipulating and being a whore to get what she wants. If you look in the back, we see another woman. This guy is manipulating two women. He's got his harem for sexual gratification. All he cares about are his needs. And these people are exhausted, they're sick, they're mentally sick, and they're in a toxic loop. Ask yourself, are you using energy games? Who do you manipulate? Where are you trying to gain power over someone else? Who is draining your energy? Do you have psychic vampires in your life? Do you have people that are always needy and draining? You can tell by their energy who is draining in your life. And if you have them in your life, you're choosing to have them in your life. And I hear you saying, oh, but it's my family, it's my children. It's my wife. I can't change that. My dad, I live at home and I can't move out, and my dad's picking on me and being abusive. You do have a choice. There are other options. And if you are in sexual energy virus, it's because deep down you're getting something from it. It might be a justification that, I am a victim and this is, it's blame game. I'm this way because this happened to me. All men are users. All men are assholes. So I might as well just fuck them and get some money from them and use them. It's negative, horrible thinking. Here's the answer. Okay. You don't have to be in sexual energy virus. You can profoundly drop your story, heal up your ancestral karma, and move in to create a new extended family of like-minded high spiritual beings. You can move into a career that is your passion. You can experience radiant health and prosperity. If you need help with this, if you are really struggling, do not beat yourself up. At least you're recognizing what's happening. And that's the start. There is a group I belong to. It's called the Crimson Circle. You can look them up online. They have what's called SES, which is Sexual Energy School. It will kick your ass. It will get you out of your negative thinking. It will help you heal up your karma and your toxicity and get you from sorrow or anxiety into a new you. You have to do the work. If you find that you're stuck in constant depression or constant anxiety, it is your thoughts. And people say, oh, but I have I was born with a condition. You know what? You can heal it up. I was born with what is called neurasthenia, which is a hypersensitive nervous system that makes you prone to too much stimuli. I have acute hearing, which on one level makes me a great, artist. So I can be in an orchestra and hear a 100-piece orchestra and say, hey, the second oboe's playing the wrong note. But at the same time, loud noises, too much stimuli, firecrackers, police sirens, they can make me unnerved if I allow it. And I could have gone on Xanax and Prozac, which I did in my youth, but now I've healed it up holistically by changing my habits. Wherever you're starting from, don't own victimhood, don't own disease. I know one lady who was a close friend of mine who did suffer from schizophrenia, and she wore it like a badge. I'm a schizophrenic, I'm a victim. Instead of doing things that could heal her, when she took medicine that the doctor gave her, she was better. And when she was doing meditation and yoga, she was healing it up. And then she's like, I don't want to take my medicine. I don't want to do my yoga. And she ended up homeless on the street. She fucked up her marriage, lost her children. Her whole life went down the toilet. This is a choice. I had severe panic disorder at one time in my life. It was after my first husband died, and I was distraught. I also had a family that was homophobic, and I was dealing with, feeling alone and abandoned. I was around toxic friends, supposedly friends, they weren't really friends, that were feeding on this energy and using me for their own gain. I was this whore victim, like this woman. And it took me hitting rock bottom and having to start over and file bankruptcy and to get rid of almost everybody in my life and start over. But I did it. And I don't have anxiety or depression anymore. I'm in radiant health. I rarely get sick. I am fortunate to be in abundance, and I'm surrounded with an extended family that love me unconditionally. I'm living my dream. And you can turn your life around from wherever you are. I'm spending a lot of time on this card because if you are in crisis, you can change it. Don't give up. Align yourself with the spiritual principles. If you need help, seek out a group. Religious Science, which is a group I believe in. They teach your thoughts create your reality. Go find a religious science church. Start studying. Get into spiritual classes. Get into meditation. You can make the changes. If you are addicted to Western pharmaceutical, don't just stop your drugs, but wean yourself off. Find a holistic doctor, like an acupuncturist, Chinese herbalist, that can help you get off your meds quickly and make healthier choices. You got this. I'm rooting for you, and I love you. You're going to do this, okay? So you're powerful. You are God, goddess also. Start acting like it. Okay, you might be slightly confused. The Four of Swords I have decided to call truce, just like the Two of Swords. But truce can mean many things. So in the Two of Swords cards, it means resolving conflict, coming together. And the Four of Swords is also that, but it's from self-cruelty as well. So what we end up with here is this ability to come together for a new resolution. When you pull the Four of Swords, you are in victim blame game. So while the Two of Swords deals with differences of opinion, I'm right, you're wrong. The Four of Swords is in blame mode, and they need a truce of like, okay, no, I need to take ownership. You're not to blame. What we see on this card, which is fascinating, is this 20 car pileup, right? And everybody is like, it's your fault. And everybody's in blame. The roads were slick with oil and it's raining. It's the weather's fault. It's you hit me. It's your fault. And see the word. It's interesting. I put the word text over a car, and the word text is like it's just like everybody is writing off, texting their own story. Okay, and they're stuck in story. Because I was driving a jalopy, and the brakes weren't good. It's the jalopy's fault. It was the guy who sold me the car's fault. You see this limo trashed, and it was like, it's the chauffeur's fault. It's the weather's fault. And everybody has their own text and their own story and in blame game. And this truce is stop this and own up to your life. The way you choose to look at this situation will affect what you attract. Maybe someone is in one of those cars there and they're thinking, wow, isn't it fabulous that God and my angels were protecting me and I am not injured. And you know what? It was time to get a new car, so I'm just going to call my insurance and get the insurance money, and I'll have a brand new vehicle and a better car, and something good's going to come out of this. And there might be someone in another car in blame game and saying, see, everything bad happens to me. And it's my sister's fault that I was rushing to work, and the asshole that sold me my car sold me a lemon, and the gas station attendant didn't fill my tank up correctly, and it's the weather's fault, and this street is a bad street and has bad juju, and it's the street's fault, and blame. The blame game never gets you anywhere, okay? It is fucked up, and it's going to keep you locked in bondage, and it's going to cause you to attract every negative thing possible if you are in victim blame. Truce is, okay, I see that everybody has different thoughts, that I can allow them to be angry. I can allow them to be in their victimhood, but I'm going to choose to align myself with God and know that everything is working out for my highest good, and that this car accident was actually a blessing. I recently had this exact situation. I had bought a brand new, beautiful luxury Subaru Legacy. Gorgeous car. I paid cash for it out the door. Leather seats, Bose system, automatic temperature, just fabulous car. And I had it parked in front of my home, and some asshole drunk was coming from the bars and decided to try to parallel park in the middle of the night, and he backed into my door and dented my door, and then he backed right into the front of my car and created all this body damage. Now, I didn't see who done it too. It was a hit and run, but I got on my phone on Starlink this thing that my car was hit. So I go out to my car, I see all the damage. Now, my first instinct was to panic, right? And to get into anger, right? Anybody would be angry if that happened. I'd be like, fuck that asshole who did this. And I started to see people coming out to my car and energy feeding. Oh, isn't it awful that this happened to you? And isn't it awful that I hope you can get a new car, and I hope it's not going to be too expensive, and whine, energy feeding. And I said, thank you very much. I went into my house and I said, this is happening for a reason. It's going to be a positive. And What happened is I called my insurance. I called AAA. Everything was taken care of. I received a fabulous rental car for 1 month rent free, and I was driving a Cadillac, Continental. I had an amazing car. I knew that the body shop that was going to work on my car was going to make it look perfect to better than new. And I knew that there would be no major damage on my car, and they did a beautiful job. And yes, I did have to pay a deductible of $1,000, which was a double deductible. And you know what? Instead of getting angry about that and saying, this, blame game, like it's not fair that I have to pay a deductible when it was somebody else's fault and boo hoo hoo. I just went, you know what? I'm not even going to worry about it. The money's going to come. And that month, I manifested not only the money I needed for that, but an extra $5,000. That just the money just was there. And I said, okay, now while my car is being fixed and in the shop, I'm going to take a road trip. And I went up to Northern California, and I went to a bed and breakfast, and I was being, lavishly treated. I had a beautiful suite, and I went up to this area called Eureka, California. I stayed in a beautiful Victorian bed and breakfast, had high tea, had people waiting on me hand and foot, and didn't even worry about my car. I had this amazing life adventure. And I thought about it, and I said, how blessed am I that because of this car issue and this hit and run, I am now being treated with an adventure I will remember the rest of my life. It's about how you choose to look at this. What are you choosing? Okay. I also joke with this card is, even though this is a 1920s card with the old cars on it, people text and drive and do stupid things. And that is sort of an ode to that. Like, I live in California, where I see some of the most ridiculously stupid people on the road, and they're sitting there and they're texting on their cell phones and swerving through traffic and not being intellectual, not being smart, putting their life in danger. And anybody who is stupid and fucked up enough to do that, they're going to attract that car accident. They're going to attract bad stuff. I saw this one lady who was in a parking lot at Trader Joe's, and she was texting on her cell phone and backed into another car, brand new car. Her car was totaled, all crunched up, and she went into the blame game. It was his fault. He was running around the corner. No, you were texting, bitch. Sorry, and you get what you deserve. It's like karma. And so she had to deal with police and had to deal with all this drama that she created for herself because she wasn't using her intellect and her spiritual awareness. So this card is powerful. You need to learn from it. Now to one of my least favorite cards, and a card that actually pisses me off, and that is the Five of Swords, defeat. And here we have a homeless woman in absolute victimhood blame game. It's always everybody else's fault. We're in the Great Depression. It's the government's fault I'm homeless. It's everybody's fault. People should give me money, and it's not my fault that I live on the street. She also is in the collective toxic consciousness buying into while everybody else is homeless, so I guess I have to be homeless too. And even though she has talents, and deep down we know that she is God also, she is choosing the role of not being spiritual, to being a sewer rat. You know, she is toxic. She's smelly. She's filthy. She wears it like a badge. Look at me. I'm the homeless old woman. You know, victim, victim, victim. She is also, which pisses me off because I am an intellectual, she is burning books. She is burning knowledge. She has all of the truths in those books of spiritual awareness of what she could do to heal her situation, and she's burning them. Exactly what Hitler did in 1933. And this woman is a fucking idiot, okay? And pisses me off. She is in defeat. She is in failure. She wears failure like a badge. And when you pull this card, it means get the fuck out of this mode. Align yourself with allowing, get yourself into optimism, build your self-esteem and your self-confidence, and break through your fears. She is allowing fear to control her. What if I can't eat? What if I can't get warm? What if I die on the street? She is in lack and fear, and she has done it to herself. And if you are in lack consciousness, if you are having trouble paying your bills, if you are in high debt, you've done it to yourself. And the first thing you have to do is love yourself with compassion and to start to make small changes. One thing that I had a student one time who was always in debt, can barely pay his bills. And then I would see him at Starbucks spending $20 on friends to eat junk food. And I'm like, you know, if you just stop that one habit of going to Starbucks every day, you would have another $200 that month that you could put to getting your debt down, or you could put that towards your schooling to get a better job. You can use your money wisely. And a lot of people that are in defeat are just the most ridiculously stupid people in the world. They're choosing being stupid and dumbed down. It's your choice. Are you going to be a master, or are you going to be homeless? Now to an excellent card, and one of my favorite cards, and that is the card of science. Science doesn't have to necessarily mean medical science, but it's the science of study. It is about always bettering yourself, learning everything you can in life, becoming powerful intellect. And here we see a doctor that is highly successful. We see him in his office pharmacy. He understands every interaction of every drug, but also he tries to go towards holistic means. He is dedicated to healing his patients and to be an example for the planet. He is highly successful. He is wealthy, enjoying life and enjoying his passion for work, but he's dedicated to his work. He doesn't mind putting the time and the extra hours in because he's helping raise the consciousness of the world around him. He is dedicated. And this is dedicated to my second husband, Dr. Daniel Galley. And Daniel used his life. He was a top biochemist, and he worked on, vaccination for Alzheimer's, learning out how to preserve crops and food supply without the need of toxic chemicals. He used his life for good. He was a very well-respected college professor. And, we have a choice. Are we going to use our life to help others and to study and soak up knowledge, or are we going to play victim? This man is a powerful intellectual man. You can be all-knowing as well. Study, study, study. Learn your passion. Whatever your passion is, it takes work. This man did not mind going to university for 10 years, spending over $100,000 on his education to get where he wanted to with his passion. And now he is one of the top doctors in the field, and he has saved millions of lives, and he's going to have a life where he is remembered and as a leader. And you have that opportunity with whatever you choose as your passion in life to become great as well. Now to yet another toxic card, the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is represented by self-sabotage. Here we have a guy who is hiding out in his basement from law enforcement because he did something wrong. He murdered someone, he stole for someone. And we see hanging from the ceiling ropes and chains. You know, he's hanging himself. He did this to himself. And he's sort of, you know, there is hope, but he's sort of stuck in his, you know, in his cellar in squalor. And self-sabotage can mean many things too. Self-sabotage could be, you know, this just the idea of futility. That means like, I can't. This person is in, you know, I can't. It's self-sabotage. It's frustration. It's being pessimistic. You know, the world owes me a living, and you know, therefore, you know, if I have to rob, cheat, and steal, do whatever it takes and manipulate to get what I want, I am. It's power games that end up coming back on you to work against you. It's making dumb choices out of a place of power and not out of a place of spiritual truth, of God I am. This man is wallowing in toxicity and fear, and therefore he's in his own prison. He is self-sabotage, he is frustrated, and he is in I can't. Pretty toxic. Don't choose that. And now another negative card, the Eight of Swords. And here we have this card of interference. And what it means is self-interference. It's letting go of what's holding you back. It's her own mind that's keeping her in her prison. If you notice this woman, she is beautiful, she has fashion sense, she is intellectual, but there's something that is like, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I don't have enough money. There are thoughts that are keeping her locked up. Okay? And this is mental interference. It's her interference that's keeping her from getting what she wants. And she's in her own mental jail. And she's so close to a breakthrough. That's the thing. If she can change that one thing, her whole life would come together. But she is allowing her mental shit to control her. And this is the mental jail. Okay, she's in her own prison of her own mind. But she can choose at any time to open the door of that prison and leave it. It's up to her. What will she choose? Hopefully she will choose wisely. Oh, and yet another toxic card, and now we get the Nine of Swords. This is addiction, debauchery, and this woman doesn't want to face her fears and her problems. And instead of facing her emotions, she just numbs everything down with cigarettes, alcohol, heroin, drugs, sex. She's trying to escape her mind. And how many people do that? And there are other types of addictions that people don't see as addictions, but they are. How many people waste their life all day long feeding energy on social media, and they're on Facebook and YouTube all day long looking for things to feed on. How many people waste their life doing that? How many people waste their life, running and getting toxic fast food, or, being a couch potato and eating a bunch of junk food and emotionally eating? How many people, spend their whole life playing video games? Now, I love video games, and it doesn't mean it's wrong to like a video game or to play one, but do you spend 8 hours of your day playing a video game? Or is your life in balance? Addiction can be gossip. There's people that are so busy in everybody else's life and gossiping, that it keeps them from having to look at their own lives. So gossip is a form of addiction. How many people waste their lives all day long, just watching porn or going to porn sites and fetish addictions instead of actually going out and meeting their soulmate? How many people are, addicted to just spending their whole life at Starbucks, or whatever. And just, it's amazing to me. I know some people that are locals in my neighborhood that anytime I'm out, and I can go out at, 5 in the morning, or I could go out in the afternoon, and I see the same person sitting at Starbucks all day. And I'm going, what the fuck are they doing with their life if they're at Starbucks drinking sugary drinks and eating, processed junk food all day long? Where's their life going? But there's people that are in these addictive patterns. There are people that are running from themselves instead of understanding spiritual principle. Okay, this woman is in black and red, and if you notice, she's creating her own evil. There's a part of her that thinks, I'm bad, I'm evil, and therefore I deserve these bad things to happen to me. And sometimes people are brought up that way. They have abusive family members, or maybe they've been turned away by their church. In my own life as a gay male, I was brought up as a child as a Christian, and my childhood Christian upbringing was beautiful, with loving people that loved me unconditionally and taught me spiritual principle. But then later on in life, I became a music minister at churches, and because I was gay, I was outed, I was abused, I was told I was nothing. People turned against me. And, I was told I was degenerate. I was told that, my relationship to my husband wasn't a real relationship, and all of that toxicity. And I took that on for a while. And I did go through, at one time in my life, alcoholism and toxic behavior, because I didn't want to deal with those feelings. I didn't want to challenge that, because I felt like, well, look at, my church is telling me I'm bad, my family's telling me I'm bad, I must be bad, okay? Instead of getting into my spiritual truth. So, have compassion for someone that's dealing with an addiction, but at the same time, don't, like, you have a choice. There's people that are in addictive behavior that surround themselves with other toxic people with addictive behavior. You are the company you keep. One of my closest friends in my 30s, who I loved very deeply, he was gorgeous, he had so much talent, and he decided to pollute his mind. He became a user, he became an alcoholic, he destroyed his life. And I finally had to walk away from that relationship and say never again. And it was hard, because it was someone I cared about. But, by me saying, I'm going to live in my truth and align myself with spiritual, light-minded beings, I got rid of all the toxic people in my life. And there was a lot of people that were addicted personalities, people that were addicted to sex or alcohol, especially in the gay community. I know a lot of people every night, they're just like, who can I sleep with? Who can I, that's a lot of the gay community. And I chose to leave that part of the community. And I want to make it very clear as a gay male that there are many people that are wonderful gay, lesbian, and transsexuals that do not engage in that feeding energy of the clubs and drugs and all that. There are many good people too, and you have a choice. Align yourself with the right people, okay? This woman is in her addictive, toxic behavior, and she's attracting low energy to her. You have a choice. Are you going to be wallowing in addiction and self-mutilation, or are you going to change your life? It's your choice. Now, the most difficult, hardest, and most painful card to look at in the deck, and that is ruin. And anybody who is in ruin has done it to themselves. That is the hard truth. This boy that we see on my card is homeless. He's on the street. He's in danger. There are people that could, rape him, murder him, and he's done it to himself. He has talent. He's handsome. He could get out of this situation, but he's choosing, again, victimhood. What is even more scary is if you look under the blanket, they're corpses, and this is his family. His parents have died on the street because they would not help themselves, and he's going down the same path, and he is too afraid, living in fear and not trusting. He doesn't believe in God. He's an atheist. And he's like, there is no God, there is no help, and victim, victim, victim. And he would rather sit there with the corpse of his dead family on the streets in danger than to help himself. And that is true ruin. The complete opposite of understanding spiritual truths. Okay? Very toxic. And this man needs to break through lack of abundance consciousness and being hurt, and to be in the God I am, and I'm going to allow, and I'm going to use my talents to better my situation. He could just walk away from this, and yes, it would be a lot to deal with, to leave parents that died in squalor, to leave hunger, to leave being literally homeless on the street, and to seek out help. And if you look, besides the dangerous people on the street, there may be some people that could help him. He could go to that man on the left and say, "Excuse me, sir, do you know if there is a shelter I could go to? Is there a soup kitchen where I can get some food? Is there a place where I can get cleaned up?" And he might be like, "Oh my gosh, yes, I run a grocery store, and I need some help, and I can let you live in the back if you help me, and I can get you, healthy food, and we can get you back on your feet." And that might be all it needs, is for him to just say, "I need help." But he's too afraid to. He would rather live in his squalor. He would rather live in his ruin. I'm going to tell a story that was very difficult for me. I knew a psychic woman who you would think would be, a spiritually aware person. And she used to read tarot at a local coffee house that I went to. And she was a lovely woman, and she would help everybody else but not herself. And one day, she took in a toxic roommate. Things didn't work out, and she was evicted. And instead of, she had money, okay, so it wasn't that she couldn't get another place, but her thought was like, everybody hates the elderly. Nobody wants to help the elderly. And I said, well, you have money. You can get into a nice apartment. You don't have to be on the street. And she's just like, "No, I'm not." I said, "Well, you can get a credit card." "I don't want a credit card." "You can get a driver's license. You can get a car to help yourself." Victim, victim, victim. She ended up moving into a roach motel. That was horrible. I mean, it was like this rat-infested, horrible place where she was spending an insane amount of money. To believe it or not, to live there, she was paying like $3,000 a month, where she could have got a nice apartment for half of that. I mean, like a really nice apartment, oceanside with a beachfront balcony, everything for half of that. But she chose self-abuse. And then I would go over to check on her because she was a person I cared about, and I would bring her, food, and and then she was like, "Oh, you don't need to get me, food," and then she would be eating cat food out of a can, and just getting by, and she was. In fear mode, and she was panicky about germs. And I remember her taking it was just, she took like I don't know, some kind of a hemp soap, and she was scrubbing her walls down with this weird soap that was creating stains in her hotel room, and this horrible kind of weird eucalyptus disinfectant smell that made you like just throw up when you walked in. And she allowed herself to go mentally down the toilet to where she eventually developed mental illness. And last I heard, she ended up just dying in her squalor. It was horrible, but she was choosing it. What was interesting is there were so many loving people that would have helped her. She had a brother in Northern California who was affluent, and she could have easily just moved in with him and lived in a beautiful mansion, but she chose not to. She had spiritual people from the local church here that were going to help her as a senior citizen to get a nice apartment. She was offered, for example, an incredible condo in a senior center. She goes, "I'm not old. I'm not moving in with old people." And if she would have moved into that center, she would have lived on a golf course with, we're talking like, saltwater pool, classes for free, anything she wanted to study, food delivered to her. She wouldn't even have to leave her house to go shop. I mean, it's just like, and she just chose, I don't want it. She'd rather choose low self-esteem and victimhood. Pretty toxic. And what are you going to choose? Are you going to choose to be a master or a victim? Are you going to end up like this guy on the street homeless? Or are you going to turn your life around and have wonderful abundance in your life? It's a hard card to look at, but there are people that choose ruin. And if they do choose ruin, the harder lesson of this is you have to allow them to choose ruin. As a spiritual master and teacher myself, it's sometimes really hard when you occasionally get one of those a couple of people that destroy their lives, and you have to allow them to destroy their lives if they don't want help. One last story. I had this one girl I taught who was so talented. She came from a multi-millionaire family that had everything, lived in a $4 million house. Even though she was adopted and there were differences of opinion with her parents and things, she chose to always have a chip on her shoulder. And even though she was talented, beautiful, she allowed herself to gain weight, destroyed her body, mutilated her body up with burning cigarette scars on her, crazy ass stuff. Even though she had everything she needed, she robbed a liquor store. Even though her parents were willing to help her with school, she did whatever she could to piss them off. They put her in a mental institution for a while. I mean, just like she just kept destroying her life. Then she gets out. She discovers a talent she's going to go to school for. She graduates top of her class. She thinks she's turning her life around. Then she chooses to get pregnant at 17. More and more drama. It's and blame game, and she ends up in an apartment where the apartment burns down. She barely gets out with her and her daughter, and just everything is just toxic, toxic, toxic. And where I made a mistake is I wanted to help her so much as I let her negativity and toxicity into my life. And I was working with her in a clinical hypnotherapy session. And I woke up after working with her and I could barely move. And I realized that I allowed her toxicity and her demons to actually come into my household, and it was my own fault. And that was a good learning lesson, is you are the company you keep. And when I basically broke off from her and from her family, it was all blame game. It's like, it's your fault that this happened to me, and you're supposed to be my mentor, and boo hoo hoo, and not taking responsibility. And one of the greatest lessons I ever learned in life is you are the people you keep. And I got rid of all the energy feeders and all the toxic people in my life. And as a teacher, I only choose to work with those masters that want to create a wonderful life. I don't work with muggles. I don't work with people in victim mentality. If I see a student that's in victim mentality, I get rid of them. I don't have time for it. And because of that is why I built up a successful business. I align myself with the right kind of students and the right kind of business associates that are spiritual, like-minded beings that are working together for a greater good. I don't have time for toxic people. And that is where a spiritual truth is: you need to learn to discriminate. And who are in your life right now? Are the people that are in your life, do they love you unconditionally and support your talents, or are they pulling you down? And if they're pulling you down, get them the fuck out of your life. It's your choice. Now to one of my favorite court cards, and that is the Prince of Swords. This is very reminiscent of me as a young boy. The swords, remember, it could mean an air sign, so it could mean Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. And this is the seeker of knowledge. We see this incredibly gorgeous, handsome blonde in green, very Slytherin. I kind of purposely did that. He's ambitious. You see him in his library at home, studying, soaking up knowledge, knowing that anything is possible. He is artistic. He's fashionable. He uses his intellect to attract the right people to help him up the ladder. He doesn't mind hard work. He has read every single book in his home library, and he enjoys the process of learning. He is happy introvert, being alone and studying and growing as an individual. He's calculated. He knows, like, I'm going to Oxford, I'm going to Cambridge, I am going to be a success. He is artistic and he loves the arts. He is creative again. Maybe he is a musician or he's a writer. Maybe he's an author. Maybe he's a visual artist. He knows discipline in his life. He's the type of person that doesn't, while all the other people in his age group are out partying, he is, I'm going to come home, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat right, I'm going to get plenty of sleep, and I'm going to be the one who gets the 1 in a million scholarship to the best school. He is the valedictorian, and he loves to soak up knowledge. I love this kid. This kid it reminds me of me, and he knows how to get success very early on. I was very fortunate as a young boy, and coming from a father who grew up in the Depression and didn't have much, that made himself into the head of the Delta Space Launch Program for NASA. So my dad was very successful. So I was lucky to grow up in an upper middle class family in Huntington Beach, California. I grew up with 5 siblings. I'm the oldest of 6, 3 boys, 3 girls. We had a beautiful, oh my God, what is it? 7-bedroom, 3-bath house. Beautiful backyard pool. We had 4 pianos in our house. We were all creative. My mother had a beautiful home library like this. I read every novel. By the time I was 5 years old, I had read Mark Twain. I had read Robert Louis Stevenson. I was an intellectual. But also that came from having good role models. And I knew the importance of seeking out the right people to help me up the ladder. I took the honors courses. I had one teacher who's still one of my closest friends. Her name is Linda Carpenter, and she was my honors English teacher. And she inspired me to become a teacher. And through her, I accomplished things I never thought I could accomplish. I was on a team, it's called Academic Decathlon, which is sort of like a Jeopardy intellectual team that competes around the US. And I represented for the whole state of California and for my high school, the Performing Arts Division. And I won that. I performed Gershwin's Piano Concerto in F. I, met Reagan. All these things that were amazing were because of the people that believed in me, but I surrounded myself with powerful people. I seeked out the best piano teacher in California at the time, a lady, her name is Adrienne Yajin, and she was my mentor that got me into international piano competitions. I was able to win scholarships. I studied with vocal instructors that were amazing, including my mom, who was an opera singer. And by the time I was a teen, I was performing in musicals, getting lead roles. I was, doing television commercials. Because of my music, I was able to get into a very successful new wave band. And my band, it was called In Common Hours. I was fabulous. I opened up for big name, acts in the 80s. I performed at the Roxy, opened up for Human League. I met Michael Jackson. All these amazing things happened to me because I applied myself. And where people, my friends would say, "Oh my God, Jim, don't you want to come over and play Pac-Man?" I said, "Yeah, I do, but I got to practice piano for 2 hours first." And they're like, 2 hours? Why are you wasting your time with that? Well, I was the one laughing to the bank. I was 15, 16, making a great living. I had opportunities other people didn't have. I remember being 16 and buying my own annual pass to Disneyland, where I actually met my husband and blessed myself with that, and met lifelong friends that were artists. Again, going back to my band years, I went to school with some of the most famous people. I went to school with Warren Fitzgerald, who is a guitarist with the Vandals. I went to school with Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots. I went to school with Josh Freese, who is the drummer of Foo Fighters. I went to school with Nicole Eggert, who, was an actress on Baywatch. I went to school with Melissa Fawn, who was my next door neighbor and one of my best friends, who went on to be one of the top voiceover artists in the world. And she was the understudy for Kristen Chenoweth in Wicked and did all these movies. And her brother's a famous comedian. And, just like all these amazing people, I chose to align myself with powerful people that could help me, and people that believed in me. That's important. And that's what this boy has done. He's like, I don't have any time for, he's a Slytherin. It's like, I don't have time for muggles. I'm going places. I'm an intellectual. And I love this card. It represents, again, it feels very me. And I admire those princes of swords out there that are, no matter where they're starting from, they're pursuing their passion and making lasting change that will make their lives fabulous. It's your choice. Another beautiful card I absolutely adore is the Princess of Swords. And this could also represent a beautiful young air sign, a beautiful young Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. And here we see this absolutely stunning young lady enjoying the fruits of her intellect. She is sitting in a garden. The pink flowers of her dress and the pink flowers in the garden represent her passion and her love She has a passion for something in her life, and she loves sharing that with others. She's able to communicate effectively and intimately. She is wearing also soft blue, and we see the soft blues in this, and that represents she's at peace. She's a peaceful, quiet person. And when someone pulls the Princess of Swords, this is the person who is able to break through toxic moods that other people might get into, like sorrow, depression, or anxiety, and to find peace in quiet through meditation, through quieting her mind. So she uses her intellect to come into emotional balances. She has many tools she uses to find quiet reflection, and she gives herself the self love time to do that. She is sitting here in an elegant garden enjoying the best tea. She is fashionable. She is enjoying just this ability of, I'm just going to enjoy my roses, have a nice cup of tea and maybe a lovely dessert, and talk to some of my friends intimately and enjoy. And she is someone who meditates. She is someone who takes walks in nature. So when her mind is overactive, this young lady knows how to quiet her mind through disciplines. Maybe she practices yoga or Tai Chi. Maybe she, when her mind is active, she gets into creative pursuits that help her to heal. Maybe she is a painter. Maybe she sings. Maybe she sews. She does creative projects. Maybe she's out in the garden, attending to her beautiful roses. Maybe she's got culinary skills and she's like, I'm going to share my gifts and make wonderful scones to go with tea to share with my friends. And she is authentically there for other people. She's a good listener, and she has a quiet nature that makes her beautiful and attractive to others. Now to the King of Swords, and this is a great card. The King of Swords is the intellectual spiritual master. This is like Dumbledore. This man is a university professor, incredibly intellectual. He is a leader. He has basically revolutionized all the lives of his students, affected change, and now he actually owns the whole university. So he is successful, he is in power. So the Knight of Swords, a little bit about him. He could be Aquarius, he could be Libra or Gemini. He is a passionate thinker, and he uses his intellect to accomplish goals, and not only for himself, for others. He's able to effect radical change. He's got great achievement and accomplishment. He is always studying and learning. He is the guy of higher education. He might have not just one doctorate, but 2 or 3 doctorates. He is brilliant. He speaks 5 languages. He's a master of all kinds of different subjects. He's a free thinker as well. He's visionary. He's always thinking to the future, the age of Aquarius. Here is an elderly man, but he doesn't seem elderly. He might be 80 some years old, but he's living like he's still in his 20s with zest for life and following his dreams and passions and the subjects that matter to him. And he's affecting change in the university, and he is having fun doing that as well. He soaks up knowledge like a sponge. He is the old creative intellectual. And our final sword card, the Queen of Swords. And here we see a mental master. This woman here, if you look at her, is also the intellectual thinker. She can discard masks and falsehood. She sees behind other people's victimhood and stories and helps her clients because she is a psychologist, clinical hypnotherapist, to get out of their daydreams and negative thinking and to create lasting change. She is the mature intellectual thinker, able to break through childish daydreams, negative thinking, and anything that's holding you back. She is the counselor. She is a creative, intellectual woman, maybe Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. I want you to notice that she's also discriminating. She'll be like, oh, I'm more than happy to help you. That will be $200, please. And if someone says, oh my God, you're so expensive, I can't afford it, well, then I can refer you to someone else. She has a highly successful office. Notice that her office is very luxurious. She is top of her game. She is the counselor and spiritual advisor to the president. Wish we had her for our current president. But anyway, but she is an advisor. She is advisor to famous actors and actresses. Again, she charges 200 or maybe even 2,000 an hour, and her place is luxurious. You notice the leather seats and she's in a penthouse with beautiful view of New York City, and she has stained glass, and she's beautifully dressed. She's successful. She's discriminating. She is more than happy as a master to help anybody in need if they truly want to work on their shit and to change. If they are in victimhood, she's like, I don't have time for you. Go wallow in your pity. I'm going to, see my patients and then go have a beautiful dinner and go to an opera or a Broadway musical and, maybe travel with my friends and, or whatever. She has the world is her oyster. She's highly creative, highly successful, highly intellectual. And she is the person that is the spiritual advisor. Okay? And she will be more than happy to help you if you're ready for change.